welcome to Glory Apologetics. My name is Francis and we continue this video series responding to the common objections our Muslim friends bring against Christianity and the Bible. Many of our Muslim friends say that according to James chapter 1 verse number 13, God cannot be tempted. But in Matthew chapter 4 we read Jesus Christ was tempted in the wilderness by Satan. So their argument is, if Jesus is really God, how can he be tempted? Here in Matthew 4, he was tempted, therefore, Jesus cannot be God.
If Jesus was God, Satan would have known it. And the story makes no sense that Satan is coming up to God and trying to tempt God. It doesn't make any sense.
How do we respond to this? Before we come to the conclusion, we need to know that the word tempted or temptation can mean different things in different contexts. For example, in Old Testament, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse number 16, it says, "You shall not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him in Massa." So there is an instruction given to Israel not to tempt the Lord. But do we find any instances in the Old Testament where the God is tempted? Yes, that's what we read in Exodus chapter 17 verse 1 and 2, Malachi chapter 3 verse number 15, Psalm chapter 106 verse number 14. So the God of the Old Testament was tempted. Does that mean according to James 1:13, Yahweh of the Old Testament is not God because he was tempted? No. We need to understand in what context James was saying God cannot be tempted. In order to understand the context, let us read the verse. James chapter 1 verse number 13. When tempted, no one should say God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. God cannot be tempted by evil. This is the important phrase that highlights the point James was trying to make. James was clearly indicating that God cannot be tempted to commit evil. So there are two types of temptations, internal and external. Internal temptations can mean a temptation that comes due to internal enticements, desires to fulfill lusts, to commit sin, to commit evil. So James here trying to point out that God cannot be tempted through internal desires or enticements to commit evil or any sin. So the second kind of temptation can mean to test. So whenever we read in the Old Testament God was tempted, it was the temptation that came from the external source, from the Israelites, from the wicked people. God was never tempted internally to commit any kind of evil and sin in the Old Testament. Similarly, my friends, when we read Matthew chapter 4, we agree Jesus was tempted, but his temptation was not internal. That temptation did not come from his internal desires, internal enticements to commit any kind of sin or any kind of evil. Rather, this temptation is the second type of temptation which came from the external source to test the Lord, to test Jesus Christ from the Satan. In Psalm 106:14 we read, people tested God in the wilderness. Similarly, in Matthew chapter 4, Satan tempted Jesus in the wilderness. The God of the Old Testament did not succumb to the temptation that came from outside to test him. Similarly, Jesus Christ our Lord did not succumb to the temptation that came from the external source, Satan. The God of the Old Testament never committed any evil from his internal desires or enticement. Jesus Christ never committed any sin through his internal desires, enticement. So the verse is very clear. It is the misunderstanding of our Muslim friend. They confuse two things. So temptation cannot always mean one thing. It can mean different things. And how do we know that? The context determines the meaning of the word temptation. So if you are a good person, if you really want to know the Bible, start reading the context and understand the word in its immediate context, and you will be able to see the true light of our gospel. God bless you. Keep watching. We will be up with more videos. If you want me to answer any specific question you have in your mind, please send in your queries to glory.apologetics@gmail.com. Insha Masiha, we will respond to your queries as early as possible. God bless you.